Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Statistics Solutions webinar. Today, we are going to cover preparations for a quantitative defense. My name is Justin D'Souza. I'm a quantitative specialist here at Statistics Solutions. I'm going to go through the entire presentation first, and if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will do a question and answer session at the end. Colleague Sierra will also be providing some hyperlinks in the chat box regarding dissertation assistance and consultation links. If you have any questions about those, you can also type a question in the chat box. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first, I'll give an overview of the services that we provide at our company. Then we will dive into preparation for a quantitative defense. A lot of the same talking points will apply to a qualitative defense or a mixed methods proposal. And then we'll go into a summary and a Q&A session. I will also provide a couple examples of PowerPoints that I have seen in the past that have been approved and participants have defended. All right, so on this slide, you can see the different components of the dissertation that we assist with. We also help with master's theses, and we help with journal publications. So our company will assign a literature review specialist to you, along with a methodologist, very much like how your committee may work. And we will edit your dissertation. We will add citations, references. We will provide suggestions to bolster your paper. So we help with topic development all the way through the end, and we can help you frame research questions. We can help you identify a gap in the literature. We can help determine what statistical analyses you need to run to address your research questions. We can help pinpoint survey instruments that you can use for your topic. We can host a survey for you on SurveyMonkey. And we can provide a results chapter for you, essentially. If you give us your school's template along with the data, we can crunch the numbers in SPSS or Stata, and we can provide an APA write-up for you. And then we help with the discussion chapter, PowerPoints for proposal and final defenses, which is what we're covering today. And we can help condense your dissertation into a journal publication. So if you have any questions about the services, you can give us a call at the number below here, 727-442-4290. We will also send everyone a copy of the PowerPoint and a copy of today's webinar. On this slide, I have a couple hyperlinks to show the previous webinars we've done. We have recordings of them on our website, as well as future webinars that we will be doing. So we discuss really every topic. We have introduction, we have literature review, methodology, both quantitative and qualitative, and we do mixed methods as well. So if you have any questions about those, you can check out the hyperlinks. All right, so I would say 90% of universities do both a proposal and a final defense. So after you've done your introduction, lit review, methodology, usually you have to defend those chapters. Not all the time, though. Some universities only do a final defense. So during the proposal defense, you want to summarize the key points from your proposal. You want to focus on why this research was necessary. You want to focus on the gap in the literature, identify your role in this research. How are you adding literature to the topic? And then you want to explain the specific methodology for the proposal. Now, everything is typically written in future tense for a proposal defense because it's assuming you have not collected the data yet, unless you're using archival data and you already have permission to use it. But usually you haven't collected data yet because this is when the IRB process is typically happening. The final defense is summarizing the entire dissertation. So you are condensing the proposal chapters and the information in the proposal, but then you're shifting it to past tense, okay? Because the study has already been conducted. You have analyzed the data, so it's now in past tense. The primary focus of the final defense is on the quantitative results, if you're doing a quantitative dissertation. And then you have to explain the implications of these findings and what they mean for your field. And you can also give recommendations for future research. Okay, so in terms of preparation, I highly recommend asking your school for a template for both the proposal and final defenses. Almost every school has a template or a checklist that you should follow, very much like the dissertation. See if your committee can give you examples. That's my best suggestion here, is look at a previously approved example from your school that your committee has specifically worked on. Then you can just mirror the exact presentation. Ask your committee what types of questions to anticipate. I know a lot of students that I've worked with, they kind of skip that step. They jump in blind to the defense, but it doesn't hurt to ask ahead of time, what questions can I anticipate? And you can ask if it's going to happen during the presentation. You know, are they going to interrupt you during the defense and ask you questions, or can you anticipate the questions at the end of the presentation? Obviously, at the end would be preferable. This is the typical template I see for a proposal and final defense. This is really a final defense. It has every component: problem statement, purpose statement, theory. So these are the introduction chapters. Then you go into population sampling, research method and design. Why did you select a research method that was quantitative? Why did you select a correlational or experimental design? What other considerations did you have? Did you consider a longitudinal design or a cross-sectional design? You want to have reasons for the things you decided, but then be able to justify why you didn't select another approach. List your research questions, discuss the data collection process. How long did it take? How long do you expect it to take? Are you using previously validated survey instruments? Then the last 3 bullet points, really the last 2 bullet points, are for the final defense. You won't have research results until you do your final defense. So you list the statistics, you list the findings. Do you reject or fail to reject your hypotheses? Give visual representations of things if you can, like bar graphs and tables. I think that's a visual aid is often better than just reading a paragraph of statistics. And then you discuss the implications of the findings and offer recommendations for future research. Okay, so if you're presenting remotely, which is the common approach today with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or Google Meet meeting, I would recommend printing out your entire dissertation and then highlight the key points and have a summary of your talking points. I think it's a big advantage to do it remotely as opposed to doing it in person, because you can have the entire paper right next to you and you can highlight exactly your talking points that you want to discuss. If you're presenting in person, which still does happen sporadically, I do see some students doing that. You want to familiarize yourself with the equipment that you're going to be using. I would go to the actual room where you're going to present, know if there's a projector, a USB, HDMI cord, or if you're using PowerPoint or something else. And then run a mock defense with your committee, friends, or colleagues. Get as much practice as you can conveying the information. Record that mock defense so you can practice articulating key points. And you can see what you are strong at discussing and what you are not as strong as discussing. And then you can make adjustments accordingly. Okay, so I do have a couple examples here. First, I'll show a proposal defense. This is from GCU. It's a client I worked with in the past. So they have a template that they want you to follow. I think it's actually the background template and everything. They provide this. So you'll want to check about what template in PowerPoint they want you to use. Okay, so we can see you give the title, you put your name and your committee members, then you go into the proposal chapter. Okay, so starting with the introduction, background and gap in the literature, the theoretical framework and the conceptual framework. Then this person provided a visual model of their framework. This is very useful if you have one. Then you go into the problem statement, and you can see at the bottom of some of these slides, we have talking points, the key things we want to discuss. Then we have the purpose statement, and we have research questions and the accompanying hypotheses. Then we go into the research method and design. So you can see a quantitative method was selected, justify why this decision was made to go quantitative, why did you not go qualitative? And you can see that is discussed at the bottom here. So qualitative is generally looking at underlying perceptions, open-ended responses, whereas quantitative, you're receiving an objective relationship. Does a relationship exist statistically or not? Then dive into the research design. So this person used a quasi-experimental design with a pre-test and post-test approach. You want to justify why you selected your specific design. And providing references is definitely useful as well. Then I don't always see this, but I think it's fairly useful, is to have a list of all the variables of interest in your study. Is it an independent or a dependent variable, or do you not have independent and dependence? You just have variables of interest. What is the survey instrument that is measuring each variable? And is the variable a nominal or continuous or ordinal measurement? You could even add an extra column in here, and you could say, engagement, this is for research question 1, this is for research question 2. You can add a lot of detail to a table like this, and I think it's a good visual aid. Then we go into population and sampling. So identify who your population corresponds to, then identify, a target sample size, approximately how many people meet your criteria throughout the population. Then give the results of your power analysis if you conducted one. Power analysis is used to determine the minimum sample size you need to target. So I would provide that. You can even give a screenshot of the power analysis. This is G-power. So for a correlation here, you can see we needed 112 participants. You can just provide a screenshot of this. I think that's pretty useful. Here's some more information about sampling. What is the specific approach of sampling that we're using? It was convenience sampling in this case, but you could be using random sampling, snowball sampling, stratified sampling. There are many procedures. Discuss recruitment, ethical considerations, then dive into your instrumentation. So first there was a demographic questionnaire, then the primary survey instrument. In this case, the epoch was used, but maybe you're using maybe you're using archival data instead of a survey instrument. So you can discuss that here. This is a breakdown of how many items connect to each variable of interest. Not 100% necessary for a final defense. It's just a high level of detail that you might not need. Then we have a nice diagram here of the collection procedures. You can see the flow chart. So, site authorization first, committee and AQR approval, then IRB approval, then stakeholders were informed. Then we discuss recruitment, and you can see the whole process here. It doesn't have to be in a diagram. It could be done in bullet point form. Then we go into data analysis procedures. This is a fairly big section for the proposal defense, where you have to be as detailed as possible about what you're going to do once you collect the data. So you can talk about what software you're going to use, SPSS, Stata, R, whatever it is, and then discuss what you're going to present in the chapter, which will be after your defense. So we can see that, data cleaning is discussed. What are you going to do with responses? What are you going to do with outliers? Are you checking for reliability of your measures? And then what descriptive statistics are you going to report? So generally, if you have data, you're going to present things like mean, median, standard deviation, maybe skewness and kurtosis. If you have categorical data, then you can provide frequencies. So what are the trends in your demographics or your categorical variables? Here's an interpretation for Cronbach alpha, and what are you going to do if you have a low Cronbach alpha? Okay, then we go into the specific analysis that's going to be used. In this case, it was a repeated measures Anova, Manova, which is more on the, I would say, on the complex side of most analyses. Many students are running correlations or regressions, but regardless of what analysis you're using, you want to discuss what assumptions you're going to check. We can see this particular analysis has 7 assumptions that you should verify. And this person in particular went through each assumption and discussed what is going to be verified to meet this assumption. I don't think this level of detail is necessary for the defense. It doesn't hurt, but this is information that you should have in your dissertation, not necessarily the defense. It's too high level of detail. I don't think most committees ask for this information. Then this is important, discussing the Manova itself or whatever analysis you're using. What is the interpretation of the different statistics, like the F test or the T test? And then what post hoc comparisons are you going to do? What is the level of significance that you're going to use? Usually it's 0.05, but sometimes you have to make an adjustment if you do multiple comparisons. So discuss if you're going to use a 0.05 level or something lower. Okay, this was a proposal defense. So you can see it ends right here. And then there's a question slide at the end. And this is where your committee can ask you questions. We don't have the results. This one, as you can see, was written in future tense, will be evaluated. But once you defend and you collect your data and you finish your last couple chapters, then you can do a final defense. This is what a final defense looks like. Different university, different participant, but it's very similar. You keep the same key information. All of this information is the same from your proposal defense. You just want to condense it if possible, because the focus should be on your results and the implications of your findings. And you want to shift things to past tense. Anything about the data collection is now in past tense. Okay, so again, problem statement, purpose, theory, population, sampling. Again, a power analysis was conducted. So you want to mention this. Did you obtain the minimum sample size that you were targeting, or did you fall short? With the pandemic in the last couple of years, I see a lot of studies not reaching the sample size target. So you can discuss that as a potential limitation. And the research method and design. So expand on each of these components. Why did you select quantitative? Why did you select non-experimental? Why does a correlational design apply here? Then we have the research questions and hypotheses again. Here's the data collection process. So this person did not do a flow chart. They just did it in bullet point form. This works as well. Then we have the data analysis process. Now you can see it's in past tense. Raw data were uploaded. And it's very similar to the previous example. You talk about what software, how are composite scores being generated, what descriptive statistics are you looking at, what assumptions are you verifying, and what is the primary analysis that you are using. Then you jump into research results. Okay, so this is really the crux of this entire presentation. I recommend putting an entire demographic table in here if you can fit it. It might take a couple slides, but I think it's good to visually see the distribution of demographics. Then we have descriptive statistics on the variables of interest, sample size. We have the minimum, max, mean, or average and standard deviation. As you can see, tables are great. Tables are better than narrative, in my opinion, or bullet points. Then we go into research results. This was looking at the results of normality. And the results of this test did not come out ideal, so adjustments were made. This person proposed a Pearson correlation initially, but because the data did not follow a normal distribution, instead Spearman correlations were run, which is a non-parametric backup. So you can discuss those decisions. Then the results of each research question are reported. So you can see the correlations, what is the p-value, what is the interpretation of the correlation? Is it a small, medium, large association? Do you reject or fail to reject your hypotheses? That's really important. So as you can see here, you want to end with a definitive statement as to rejection or fail to reject, or in this case, partially reject, which is kind of a rare scenario, but it does happen. Because this person ran 3 correlations and one of them was significant and the other 2 were not. We don't have unanimous significance. We have one of the 3 correlations found a significant relationship, which is why it's partial. Okay. Then you go into implications of your findings. What does this mean for your field? How does it contribute to the literature? So a few slides about that. I don't think you necessarily need 3 slides on implications, but you could have 1 or 2 and have some talking points to discuss those. And then you can give recommendations for future research. Where can someone take your topic and expand on it? Okay, then you go to the conclusions and a question and answer session. Okay, so they're very similar. The proposal and final defense is very similar. You just have to follow your school's template. You know, they've done defenses in the past. Look for a previous example or a template, and you can follow that accordingly. All right, so do we have any questions? I do see some people joined midway. We're going to send everyone a copy of the PowerPoint and the webinar. This was the PowerPoint that we went through initially. Actually, this one here. Okay, so first I discussed where we offer assistance if anyone joined late, so you can give us a call at this number. But then we dove into the specifics on proposal and final defenses. We have any questions about presentation or any questions about the stats on your project? You can type them in the chat box. Okay, you can type them in the chat box, or you can put them in the Q&A box. Or you can raise your hand and you can use audio as well. Okay, no additional questions? All right, let's see what we have on the horizon here. Okay, looks like our next topic will be the introduction. Okay, so come join us for that. And next week we have, it looks like 2 different topics. So addressing feedback, that's a pretty good one to join. That's usually the biggest stumbling block for a lot of students, is how to address your committee feedback efficiently. And then my colleague will also be doing 7 secrets to completing your dissertation in 1 year. And that's something we can assist with as well. If you need to expedite your process, we can help you with that. All right, well, if we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and sign off. Have a great rest of your day and let us know if we can be of assistance. Take care.